What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pillow Talk with Paul Goneau. Today, my guest is Salvation Army officer and wrestler Joe Brick Cantrell.
What up, what up, what up? How you doing, brother?
Welcome, brother.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm doing all right. You know, been a little busy. How you been? Haven't seen you in a little bit.
Very busy. We had a thing happen at the gym, and so I had to be out for a week or so. And then just with work, we've been transitioning, kind of moving out of summer into the fall. Yeah. Kids are back in school, and so we were having like back to school program, like getting our programming back up and running. You know, COVID kind of had things kind of on the pause.
Yeah.
And so just getting, me and my wife have been getting that rolling, and we're excited for the future and what that's going to look like in Cedar Brae. We work out there in like pretty much Scarborough area.
Okay.
You know? And so, yeah, it's been a very busy week, too. Very busy couple weeks. Plus, working with immigration. I finally got my word I'm a permanent resident.
That's awesome, brother.
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
So
hell yeah.
I'm both. But I could stay. And so that was a big, huge load off my back. But that kept me busy for a couple days. You know, and
that's great news, man.
Yeah.
What made you... So, we've talked about it before, but New Jersey is where you're originally from?
Born in Knoxville, Tennessee. Lived in Oak Ridge, Tennessee for it's East Tennessee. Lived there for the first couple years of life. And then, we moved to New Jersey. Kind of bounced around. And we were kind of like the South Jersey area, Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Most of my life. I grew up in Freehold, New Jersey. Most people only know that because of Bruce Springsteen. You know what I mean? That's about it. You know, when I say the Jersey Shore, they start going, oof, oof, oof.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, those are the dudes from Staten Island. No disrespect. We love their money. They keep businesses open, but that's not Jersey.
Yeah.
And so, but either way, I was down at the shore, and then I ended up moving up to Newark after Hurricane Sandy.
Okay.
And I kind of I was in a weird time in life, so I was transitioning. I was homeless and stuff in a much different place, you know, and trying to get clean and sober off drugs. And so I landed in a facility that kind of housed me. And then helped me get my feet under me. You know, so that was in Newark. And so I tell people mainly, long story short, I'm from Newark, New Jersey, because that's where I learned to grow up.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, why'd you decide to move to Canada?
Love.
So
yeah.
You were living... How did you meet your lady then? She lives up here?
Well, I went through training and stuff. So my training for the Army was in New York. Okay. In a place called Suffern, New York. And then they commission you after 2 years of training, and they sent me to a place called Van Wert, Ohio. I love everybody there, but essentially go to the nowhere, and then find the middle, and that's where it was. Like it was like just corn, and I loved it there. I fell in love with it. It really stretched me as an individual, but it was like prairie life, and so it was very different than what I was used to. It was a culture shock.
Yeah,
you know, and then. You know, it's hard dating in the Army, too, being a single man. Like, especially because of what we do. We get moved around so much. You give so much to your life to the organization because essentially it's like that here I am, send me motto. And so, normally here it's a little different, but in the States it's like you have to be married to another officer.
Okay.
And so, it's like, okay, so how does that work? And I'd be like, how do
I didn't know that.
You know, how do I, and it becomes really hard to date in that kind of situation, especially when you're doing the work. It takes so much of your time. And so then I had a friend go, hey, there's a singles Salvation Army officer Facebook page, and it's an international page, so it's like the whole world. And he's like, you should check it out. And then fast forward a little bit, and I met a Canadian. She was stationed in Brandon, Manitoba.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she was out there and then, just freezing to death. You know what I mean, essentially. And then we did the online thing for a while talking. She flew out, saw me. And then her mom and dad they were stationed, still are, in Kitchener, Ontario. And so they crossed right over the border, came down and actually met me and stuff. And so it was just one of those things, though. I met her, and you know.
That's it, man.
You know what I mean? And so I was like, I told her from the get-go, I was like, I got enough friends. You know what I mean? Like, this is intentional. And the second it's not, you know what I mean? That's when I get off. And we just have an honesty with each other that honestly I didn't really no shade to any past people because I wasn't a saint either. But you know, I find that I'm finally at a place in my life where I'm healthy enough that she's kind of like my shoulder blade, if you get it.
No, it's weird because up until now, like, there's been a couple times where I was like, I think this is it.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of ignored some red flags just because I wanted it to be it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you actually find it,
yep, and
you get the support and like the unconditional love and just, it's like it's such a different feeling. It's like you're 100% you plus like more because you have that connection with somebody, and you know they motivate you to do things maybe when you wouldn't motivate yourself and stuff like it's just.
I know for me, you know, I'm not being sappy, but I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. You know, I told her everything. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
You know, all my nitty gritty, like the stuff that only God knows about. And she didn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved me anyway, you know, and she loved me like over that. And like for the first time I felt seen, like truly seen, like because, you know, as a kid, you know, I mean, we get cliquey and we like to put these masks on and be a certain way and then finally you realize you're a 30-year-old, you don't know who you are. And so like rebuilding that, owning my end of the street, you know, like, and she was still on board.
Mm-hmm.
And also she was like the first person. I had a couple ex that were, you know, in the circles I now roll in. You can run into certain people who are a little kind of, you know, they feel they're a little here and you're a little here.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I always say, we'll put it in Harry Potter terms. I'm a muggle.
Okay.
And so every once in a while, there's a Malfoy. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I kind of ran into that for a bit and people trying to like re-put, because I have a past, you know, and like the fact is like, if anybody ever did that, she shut that down before I would. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like, she's ride or die. And so then I went and got a ring the next day. and I'll be honest with you, it was a family deal, man. I got help from everybody to get the ring, but we made it happen. And so God is good, man. And now she deals with my crazy stuff.
You guys work together?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? She is my yin to yang, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to tell you that because, like, where she's a natural administrator. Like, we walked in there and she just was like, everything's in order now, like flow sheets and like spreadsheets, and she loves Excel.
Yo, I had really? ADHD. It's so weird. My girl was oh my God.
Dude, I have ADHD.
I hate it, bro.
I look at Excel and I'm already like, ooh, squirrel. Like, I'm already lost me. I'm thinking about something else, you know, and so she's really strong where I'm not, and vice versa.
That's it. Yes. Yeah.
You know, and so I think we complement each other. I always think there was this poster back in the day of Pearl Jam. And you see Eddie, and I don't know the names of people, so forgive me. I'm sure Nick will yell at me, but, you know, Eddie and the guitar player, and they're leaning against each other. And he's playing the guitar, and they're kind of leaning, having that moment. And to me, I kind of liken it to that, you know.
Hell so, yeah, man.
I moved to Canada for love, though. But Canada was always the plan.
Was it?
Yeah. I was the American, you know, New Jersey, taking 5 years of French. You know what I mean? I have family from Vermont.
You can speak French?
Nah, the only thing I can say now is "Est-ce que je peux aller aux toilettes?"
Okay, yes.
And like "Je m'appelle Joe," and then I can say a couple cuss words like what is it, tabernacle. All right, so that's about it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But that's 5 years. I made it all the way to honors French, but then, you know, use it or lose it, I guess. But the reason why is because the game plan was to go up into Montreal because I have family in Vermont, and so I was only exposed to French Canadians. So my whole life, I thought that was Canada.
Gotcha.
So Quebec was Canada. Like, all y'all just spoke French. And now I understand that Quebec would agree with me that I live here, but that's not the case. You know what I mean? And so my wife made fun of me. I was brushing up on my French before I moved here, and she's like, "You'll be all right."
Man, I am French, and I just they don't treat me nice in Quebec because I just. You know, I don't. Well, anywhere outside of like Montreal, I hear like people tell me like Montreal's like better, but I can't remember a lot. Like it's been like a long time since I was at Montreal, man.
In my past life, I knew a couple Hells Angels too, and so Montreal's kind of like a mecca for them. Like they're kind of based out of there a lot, and so you'd hear about them going up there. But like all the French Canadians I met were nice.
Yeah.
You know, because they were always at Smuggler's Notch or something in Vermont skiing. You know, so they're on vacation. And so I never had nothing bad to say. You know, and so either way, yeah, I came up here, expected a lot more French, but I've managed pretty good. And I've been living here now. I moved here during COVID, so that was fun. Got married during COVID.
That's crazy.
Even funner.
Yeah. Did you guys have a big wedding, or you guys just do the paper kind of ceremony deal?
We were gonna have like my father-in-law is a pastor as well, and they have their building and stuff, and so we were gonna use their hall, so we were saving right there. We were gonna do like catered food, stuff like that, and just like a small gathering, but it was just gonna be all our loved ones really, and then COVID shut that down, and it turned into 6 people, just enough people to get the papers signed. You know, my father-in-law, who wasn't originally going to do the wedding, stepped in and married us. And then they had their, I don't know his exact, he's like their bookkeeper. He's probably going to yell at me later because he does a whole lot more. He's an awesome guy. But he does their music too. And so he played piano. And so we made it work. But it turned in, it was about 6 folk. And then we couldn't do a honeymoon because the world was shut down. So we went right to work. And then I think about a year in, maybe about 8 months, like COVID, it was like getting warm. It was like the summer, and so COVID kind of took a dip down.
I remember, yeah.
And then a couple of places were like, hey, if you're a frontline worker, you can have discounted rooms and come up here. Well, at the time, we were working in corrections. So I was working for this house that's like a 3/4 house, guys coming out of prison.
Gotcha, yeah. I used to work there.
All right, yeah.
Like in the kitchen, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
all right.
One in Brampton.
Okay, all right. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I was their chaplain, you know what I mean? And so there was some trouble, you know, with that kind of stuff, but we never closed. You know, where some of the churches closed and different stuff like that. You know, we had these men who, we reduced our capacity greatly, you know, probably to 1/3, you know, but we still had about 60 some on, you know, or maybe not, maybe it was more like 30 something, but still 30 men, you know, that they're our responsibility. You know, we have to keep the place safe, but we stayed open through the whole ordeal, and praise God, nobody got sick. We never had COVID in the building, you know, and it worked out, you know, and so luckily they were like, hey, you want to, and so we ended up getting a honeymoon, but a little later.
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, at least you got to do it, man.
Yeah.
In all honesty, like, I'm not super into the idea of marriage. I was engaged at one point. My girlfriend was kind of into it. I would go along with it, but like if it was my choice, like I feel like we're living the married life. But if I did, I wouldn't want I see so many like young couples get married and then go into like massive debt right out the gate because they want to have this fancy wedding, and I just feel like
people they're never going to see again.
Yeah, it's mostly for everybody else.
Like, let's just keep it real. I love my family, but like I'm gonna see you like how many more times? And like some of them like the real nitty gritty folk, you know, that they're on the out, and like they're really just coming for a plate and some alcohol. You know what I mean? I hate to call it the way it is.
No, there's definitely people like that.
So I'm like,
sure.
I'm not rich. You know what I mean? And so we were blessed to keep it. And then, like I said, there was even drama. You know, family. There's always drama. This person don't like this person, or this going on. And you know, everybody forgets it's not about them. You know, and so I love them. You know, but we're all complicated. And so in some ways it was a blessing. You know, to have COVID come in. The only thing I felt bad for was my mom. You know, my mom was like, I remember my brother eloped. No shade to my brother. I'm sure he had his reasons. But I remember my mom.
Their own, man.
Yeah, but my mom, like, she took that hard.
Yeah, I get it.
And so she looked at me and she channeled all that hurt into a younger Joe. Like, if you ever do that to me. And so, like, I had this, like, my mom will be there. And I used to tell her, it's like, as long as my mom's there and Caitlin shows up, it was a successful wedding. Like, and then COVID, I was like, Mom, God said you can't come. Like, you know what I mean? Like, COVID happened. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's shut down. Trudeau said it's not happening.
It's unfortunate, but it's not on you.
Exactly.
You know?
And so she understood, and now my younger brother just got engaged to his girlfriend.
Nice.
And so they're celebrating that currently. They were in Disney just yesterday, taking pictures and sending them to me.
I've never been, man.
I went once. It was fun. You know, to me, like, I'm such a simpler person to like, the older I get, it's like, yeah, Disney's fun, rides are fun, spend all that money, but like, I'd rather just get in an RV and go camping.
That's like my ultimate dream, to be honest, brother. You said RV. I would love to get like an old school like I don't have dreams of buying like this big house. I would rather get like a big piece of property, have like something like an old school Airstream, like the metal ones, and just kind of redo it up inside and just make that, man. That's more of a dream to me than having a big house with a bunch of rooms I never go in and shit.
Well, that's just it too. Like we the house we're living in now, like through the Salvation Army, you know, they put you in a quarters because you give everything up. You know, to essentially they can move you wherever and do whatever. And so we're blessed to be in a nice house. But I look at my wife and I'm always like, this is more room. And like we're actually in a fairly smaller place compared to the last one we were in. You know, because it's just the two of us. We ain't got no kids. We got 4 cats. 4 cats don't need all the rooms. Like, it's just more things to clean. You know, and so trust me, I'm the type of person, I grew up a real life. You know, blue collar family. You know, we weren't rich. We weren't poor. Like, we weren't super poor, but we weren't rich. But we made do. And so I remember living in 1-bedroom apartments. Yeah. Like, my first apartment was transitional housing, and it was a 6x9. It was no bigger than a prison cell. You know what I mean? You shared toilet, shared locations, you know, and you make it work. Everything's a stepping stone. You know, but the dream is definitely, I told my wife, I said, you know, one day if we run away for the circus, this wrestling dream, just buy an RV, she'd get a remote job and travel the world and just wrestle shows, man.
So you got into this, to like wrestling through backyard wrestling?
My whole life, wrestling kind of came in and out. I remember, you know, I've always been a husky kid, you know, thick boy for life. And, you know, I remember Hulk Hogan, I don't know if anybody else remembers this, but they had like a mini series in America on Nickelodeon. And it was about Hulk Hogan as this fat little kid. And how he got bullied his whole life, and then all of a sudden he took his prayers, said his prayers, and took his vitamins. And I remember there was like montages of this kid running up stairs, and then he was like, ah, and then all of a sudden he was Hulk Hogan now. Yeah. And I remember like that moment, kind of was like, yeah, you know, I want to be that, you know. And so I walked. That's what walked me in the WWF door. Mm-hmm. But then I saw Jake the Snake Roberts. Yeah. And I was like, oh. There's something happening. Because, like, that flashy stuff and that's cool. I'm not hating, but it wasn't for me. Yeah. He would walk out, like, cool, collected. I'm just going to beat you up. And then I'm going to go away and I'm going to do me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He reminded me of the people I would just... He looked like an average man. And then I remember Randy Savage got bit by the cobra.
Oh, yeah.
And from that moment on, I was hooked. And we watched wrestling here and there. But, as a kid, you didn't have control of the television. And so I couldn't watch it all the time. Mm-hmm. And then finally I started, you get a car, you can start getting around. And I'd go to my buddy's house, and that was all like Attitude Era, So I would say it became like, this is a real viable thing we want to do. Probably around SummerSlam 96. Mm-hmm. Somewhere about that ballpark. It was right about that transition. You had Team Canada feuding with, and right before that, Hell in the Cell with Taker and Bret Hart. No, Bret Hart. Not Bret Hart. I'm sorry. HBK. The one where Kane came out and ripped the door off. Like, we're talking back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that one though.
Yep. And so from that day on, that and growing up in Jersey, we would hop on the bus. We were at ECW Arena every Friday night.
For real. Oh my god.
It's like my CBGBs.
Prime ECW.
Yes.
Oh my god. And that's awesome.
That's like my claim to fame, because you hear people talking about the 80s, and they talk about CBGBs, and they talk about all these clubs, and back in the day with the Whiskey A Go-Go, and then I'm like, I had ECW Arena. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember Sabu throwing Lance Storm at my feet, like, boosh, Lance Storm's here, Sabu jumps up here, and me and my buddy, and then Sabu dives off. I was like, I could die tomorrow. I'm fine. Yeah. And we had a lot of fun, ECW Arena. So that was a lot like home. And then, we built a ring. We took a trampoline. And my friend's father was an electrician. He came home with telephone poles. And we buried them things 6 feet down. Mm-hmm. And we notched them out. And he came home with tugboat rope. And we ran rope. And we had an actual turnbuckle on one side. And then we tightened the ropes up. And we had a legit ring. Like, we had a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. A lot of footage, and I'm sure some of the gimmicks didn't age well in the woke generation. So I don't want to get canceled. And so luckily, some of those things probably won't see the light of day. But we had a lot of fun. But we actually had a fed. Like, we thought out storylines.
Yeah.
We thought about long-term storytelling and different stuff, and so we really took it serious. But I've always had a love for the business, And then high school, I went into a wrestling school. It was more like a ring in a barn at this old wrestler called 911. Mm-hmm. He lived out in Jackson, New Jersey. He wrestled in ECW. He was in WWF. He was in WCW. And he was no longer wrestling, but he was training indie guys. He was probably working with an indie fed too, but I don't know if that, I didn't ask. And so we essentially went in and we did the warm-ups. The same warm-ups we do now.
Yeah.
And then I remember it being a little rougher and tougher. You kind of were new. And so I remember being tied up in the corner and just chop schooled.
Okay.
So I'll be honest, I only did it 2-3 times, but everybody was a monster. And at the time I was 17, 18.
Yeah.
I ain't built, I ain't nothing, and I'm just getting murdered. And then life happened. And so and now I'm back in it just for the fellowship, really. It's for meeting people and COVID, we were all locked up.
You gonna? I'm excited to see your first match, bro.
Dude, me too. I got a little taste of that crowd at the Beaverton show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's his wrestling? What's his actual name? It's Dave, but Raunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Ronnie? Yeah, Ronnie.
Yeah, and it's 3 names. I don't know all of them.
And I'm still learning it all, so forgive me. But he fought Clay. And they had this really funny spot, where he brought him out and the kids are giving him chops, and then they walk back and then he turns to me, he's like, yeah, and then Clay's like, no, they really sold it up, and I got to give him a good one. And so I had my first ooh, that was fun. But I'm trying to learn to crawl before I walk.
100%, man.
Nick still yells at me for still going a little sideways on my flips, and so I just take it one day at a time, man.
There's a lot to it, man. There is so much to it.
Every time anybody talks to me now and they go, "Oh, you do that fake stuff," I say,
wow.
"No." I say, "Let me call AC real quick. I'll have you come down as a +1 and just do the warm up with us on a Nick class.
Yo,
just warm up. I'm not telling you you're not gonna wrestle nothing. You might take one bump, but just the warm up.
Yeah.
And I guarantee how fake it feels.
Yeah. People don't consider all the behind this, the training that goes into it, man.
Just running the ropes.
And it's such a beautiful thing. It bugs me when it's so weird to me that people don't like it. It's the kind of with comedy, you get, and don't get me wrong, there's always going to be politics and bullshit you have to deal with wherever you are. Yeah. Always. But comparing it to comedy, there's just it's so cliquey, and you have the edgy comics, and they only hang with the other edgy comics, and you have it's always there's obviously exceptions and things like that, but with wrestling it's you have the sexy guy, and you have the really aggressive guy, and you have the hardcore guy, and you have the big mouth, and they're all just working together to make this thing happen.
Exactly.
And you go to shows, my girlfriend doesn't really like wrestling, but she likes going to the live shows.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's an experience. Everyone, you talk to somebody, and everyone has, the moments that you talk. I have an MJF moment where I didn't even know who he was. Yeah. And he came, and this was at fucking Don Koloff, bro. Okay. And he came out, and I just purely was booing him because of his scarf. Right away, I was like, oh, fuck, I don't like this guy. That Burberry scarf? And he walked right by me, and I was like, boo, and he fucking slapped my hand, and I was like, I love this guy.
I love this guy.
That's instant. And the people that don't understand that it's equal parts athleticism and performance. There's a reason that I don't know how you feel about her, but I'm not a big fan of and some MMA people make it work, but Ronda Rousey, she 100% has the athleticism and that, but
her judo's second to none.
She doesn't have the acting down. She doesn't.
I will
perform in
say,
that aspect?
I was actually, me and the wife were talking about this a couple Raws ago. I feel she's getting better.
Yeah.
I think the heel is a better. I used to always say, like, not everybody needs to talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I get like he has to be on board and he's already very busy. But man, imagine if Paul Heyman had a staple of just killers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he represented these folk. You know, and it's like, you know, not everybody had to come out. Like, you always had managers that came out who are quicker on the mic. You know what I mean? And that person can still wrestle. But they're just the mouthpiece. You know what I mean? For the people who struggle, because I'll tell you, her in-ring work, I think she's getting better. I definitely, I like her better as a heel. Mm-hmm. I don't like when she came out with all the stupid smiles, and then I just didn't believe her.
Yeah.
When she talks on the mic, it's like, but at the same time, you're like, she's new. Mm-hmm. You know, she's used to giving interviews from Joe Rogan, you know what I mean, at the end of a UFC fight, not working a crowd and being in, you know. That's one of the nuances they're teaching me at Battle Arts. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, all right, go out there and do a suplex. Go out there, learn how to take the moves and do the bumps and do all this stuff. But, like, what does your character think?
Yeah. I've taken some of this stuff. I fucking... Not trying to put him over at all, but I fucking love Nick, dude. Like, he is such a great guy. Mm-hmm. And, like, I've taken things that he's been talking to in, like, wrestling class.
In real life.
To, like, or even in my comedy as well, dude. Like... It all, like, these are, like, fundamentals that you can take lots of places.
I used them in a sermon illustration.
Yeah, right? Like
I was joking around, but it's true. Like, when he's running you and he gives you that extra, he's kind of showing you what you're made of. Because sometimes, like, I'll keep it on me. Like, I don't see it. You know what I mean? And so when I walk in the room, people are like, whoa, big man, watch out. But in my mind, it's like, what do you mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, everything's cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's all right. Don't worry. Don't fret. You know. But then, like, I get it. You know. Now I'm starting to understand it. But yeah, sometimes you need a person that's there to help encourage you, but then at the same time help call you on your stuff too.
Oh, 100%, man. Mm-hmm. No one calls you on your shit. I mean, how you getting better?
Exactly. You know. And that's and then, you know, I try to take everything as a learning experience now. You know, I don't know it all, and I never will.
Never will. That's the key, man.
Never will.
And along, like, when you go through life, you meet the people that are, you know, in their 20s, and they know it all, and it's like, even, man, when I don't think I've ever, like, I've definitely, you know, had points in my life where, I just was checked, you know? And at a young age, too. Like, being homeless when I was, like, fucking, you know, in my early teens. Like, fucking, you know, 13 and shit. And just... I was in a bad position, but I would always run into someone that had it worse. Yeah. You know? And it's like...
That's something I try to remind people of every day. Some
people have never been... Some people are, like, in their 40s, never been checked once, man. And you can tell. You can almost... Like, 100%. You can smell it.
150,000%. Yeah. That's actually some of the things I struggle with now in life. I'm not going to go super into it, but, like, I'm just, like, being genuine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I hate when I feel like someone's not being genuine. I'd rather you tell me you think I'm a dick and go walk off a short pier, because then I know where we stand. You know, that's why I said to my buddy back a couple days ago, I said, you know, you could walk me in a room full of Crips and Bloods and gangbangers, sit me in a prison, and I'll sit there and talk to them all day long. Because you know what? Like, I'm completely comfortable, cool, and calm and collected. You know, and some people see that as a problem. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not walking on water anytime soon. You know what I mean? But what I do know is that each day I try to put out positivity way more than being part of the problem. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you drive on that 401.
I don't drive, bro.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I almost envy you. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you right now.
Soon though, man.
For a country that believes in safe spaces and all this, you can't be, excuse me, sir, you can't get loud or we can just like kick you out and stop giving you services. And then you get in the 401 and it's like Fury Road, Mad Max, man. It's like everybody's bullying, cutting you off, and it's crazy, bro. I thought I seen it in New York City. They ain't got nothing on y'all here in Toronto.
Yeah, to be honest with you, man, I don't know if I've talked about this on here before, but so recently, I've been with my girlfriend for like over 3 years.
Okay.
And like this whole time, her parent, like she comes from like UAE. She's been living in Canada for about 10 years.
I'm sorry, where?
Like United Arab Emirates.
Okay,
like
that's what I thought. That's what I thought you were talking about. She was born in like
Dubai, but she moved around like all around that area.
But sometimes I'm not the most educated.
Oh, it's okay, man. I'm horrible with geography.
Just Dubai. I know where that is.
It's all good. Yeah. And so like she moved here 10 years ago, and so her family's like, this Muslim family. Yep. That's how she was raised. But and like I mean, it's like they're not hurting. They're well off, and she could have easily kind of stayed at home, but the kind of like with the kind of unspoken conditions that like they just basically like they would arrange marriage her if she let them, and she was just kind of like she's real smart, man. She's a scientist and shit. She went to school for a while, like way smarter than me.
Same thing. I married up too.
Yeah, no, it's important, very important. And so she recently told her parents like about us. And when we were discussing it, and she's like, oh, if you just say you're like, this, because like I don't know who my dad is. I was raised in foster homes and things like that, and so she's like, oh, you could just say like, oh, you have Muslim blood. Like it's kind of also like a Harry Potter Muggle kind of deal, where it's like if I'm not Muslim at all, it's like super frowned upon, right? And I was just like, well, like what's the point in telling them if we're just going to continue to lie? Like, I don't want to pretend, man. Yeah.
Amen.
And,
Amen.
Yeah, so I 100% get where you're coming from, dude.
Yeah.
It's important to just... And everyone says it, dude. Everyone says it. And, I'm going to do me, themselves, but...
I did that
a lot of people are fronting, man. A lot of people I meet, and it's...
I'll tell you right now, I did that for a while. I remember in this life, for the longest, and sometimes I still feel that way. You feel invisible. Everybody's out just getting their own, doing their own thing. And I tried jumping on that train too and be like, you know what, F it. I'll just be just as jaded, and all it does is poison you.
It's easy to be that way too.
But it poisons you.
Yeah.
You're the one that goes home with that venom in your throat every night. And then you find yourself like yelling at the cat and dog and yelling at the TV and then you're upset about everything. And I'm like, I don't got time for that, man.
Yeah, I saw something recently. So do you see Grand Slam?
I have not seen it all. I do watch AEW.
Do you know some things that happen in it, though?
You don't have. I did see the Wrestle Talk review, and I did watch like the first 2 matches, and I mean, I'm happy Jericho's ROH champion, but I don't know, it was a little bit of a sloppy match. I'm not trying to throw no shade.
Honestly, I haven't.
There's a couple spots that
I haven't seen the whole thing.
Jericho did he is a wizard.
Okay.
So that could be part of the gimmick, but. There's this punch, it's just poor camera placement, But he kind of Luke Skywalker did from in that one scene when he kicks and the guy's like way over here.
Gotcha.
He did one of those things, except he punched. And Cesaro's like way over here. It was like nowhere near him.
Take a bump?
Oh yeah, he took it. He took it because Cesaro's a G, man. Or Castillo, I should say Castillo. But he's a G, man.
So Danielson lost.
Yeah, I saw that.
There were a lot of people that wanted, because Moxley's had it twice already. He's had the World Championship.
Yep.
And I saw this thing where this guy was like, he fucked his TV up, bro. Smashed it because he was at a place
but
where
now
that would get him there. Exactly, dude. It's like, and the whole thing was like, so like it was a picture kind of meme kind of deal. Yeah. It was like this guy explaining that like this is what AEW did to him, and then like his wife and kids left. They had to leave the house that night because he was, like, losing his shit and all this stuff. And someone wrote, like, totally relatable. And I'm like, this is not good. Like, how?
Hey, bro, that's what happens. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to sound like the old guy. But that's what happens when you give trophies to everybody. Reap the benefits. Like, sometimes you gotta lose in life.
Sometimes you gotta lose.
And you're not saying you don't get a participation ribbon or something, whatever they want to make you feel good. But you know what? Not everybody gets a trophy, Timmy. Next time, grind a little harder. You know what I mean? But it teaches you in life, because you know what? Your whole childhood, if you're held like this, and then you walk out into the real world where it's...
Well, that's like childhood stars in a nutshell right there, dude. Like, that's exactly what happens.
This world will eat you alive if you let it.
For real, man. And if you're not like taught, like, you know, a lot of childhood stars will get all this money and then they're broke after, you know, like they're 25 because they don't know how to handle things. They've never handled it before. Everything's just like literally everything. People are kind of spoon feeding them because they're just cash cows.
Well, they're cash cows, you know. They want to keep the, you know, I think about one of my favorite rappers was Lil Peep. You know, and you watch his documentary, and like I listen to all sorts of stuff, even current stuff. But Lil Peep really resonated with me, and there was something about his come up and his struggles, and you know, identify with him on some levels. You know, and then you watch the documentaries though of all these people, like they're seeing it get terrible. Like dude's getting so high he could barely even remember the words to his song. But you got your foot in his back pushing him out on stage like Dance Monkey Dance.
Yeah. You
know, and so I get it's part of the system. That's the same thing with wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean now we all know about CTs and we all care, but back in the day it was suck it up.
Oh yeah, man.
Grab Stephanie's hand, let her walk you down to the ring, Kurt, while he's still asleep. And then you see great wrestler Triple H is. I had no idea that they pulled that off and still finished the match. And Kurt Angle's asleep with a concussion the whole time. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a lot of
But nowadays wrestling it's a little better. I don't know, but there's a level of
they're paying more attention.
Yeah,
you know?
But it's a level of risk that we all accept, though.
For sure.
Like every time you leave your feet, something can go wrong. I don't care if it's a simple front bump. Or you're flying off a 12-foot ladder, you know, and like Jeff Hardy and miss everything and just sit up. I'm surprised his spine didn't shoot out of his head that time.
That was the Darby Allin match, eh?
Oh, with Darby Allin, that was intense, man. Nothing but chairs. It was like it was a good spot, man. I love Darby, man. He's a maniac, but man, thank God those 6 chairs broke your fall, bud.
Yeah, right?
Oh, well, live and learn, you know? He'll feel that in 10 years.
I felt weird about Paige coming back. Or I don't know what they're calling her now. Soraya?
Soraya, I don't know exactly. That's her real name.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Shit, see, I don't know a lot about her, but I know that she broke her neck. I know how she broke her neck, and I just think it's... like, who else? Have there been, like, other wrestlers that have come back from broken necks? That seems like
I thought
probably
she had
the most severe injury you could get.
Well, Austin... You know, Austin, Angle broke his neck like 6 times in 1 year, and then finally Vince McMahon stepped in like, whoa. But Angle's a different beast, though, too. Like, that guy was like an Olympic athlete.
Did you meet him when he was in town?
No. I didn't even know he was in town until I saw Mikey's Instagram. Him and Roy were down there, and they're like, with Kurt Angle. I'm like, I missed it. Oh, well.
Yeah, actually, Lance Storm, I think, is at the next Destiny thing.
That I do plan on making. Lance Storm's a cool guy. I was such a fan.
Yeah.
Oh, man, back in the day, ECW, man, with the triple threat, and Lance Storm was always tagging with Chris Candido, but it was like the storyline that, like, Lance Storm's, like, the, you know, very upright, and, like, he's a not proper, but he has a moral code.
Yeah.
And these guys didn't. You know, it's Shane Douglas, Chris Candido, and Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they're all great. It's like the 4 horsemen and one's going rogue. And so they're even beating him up. It was like almost Stockholm Syndrome. Like the the tag titles are held by them and they're fighting each other. Like, I loved it. Every minute of it. Lance Storm, man. That in WCW. When he had his big run and he started getting all the titles.
Run in WCW.
Dude, he had the U.S. title, he had this, and he changed them all to Canadian titles.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. I loved it. Oh, I love Lance Storm. I don't think he got him as much credit as he deserved.
I don't think he did. I think from Canadians he does.
Yeah. But no, he's a G. Definitely one of the guys I grew up watching and really emulating because I respect people who are just generals in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, like, not saying I'm the most technical human being, but I can appreciate. That's what drew me to, like, a Bret Hart or something like that.
I can really see who those, like, doing the reffing now. Like, it's very clear, like, you know, who those people are when I'm watching. Like, I'm a wrestling fan first, and I have the best seat in the house.
Oh, yes, you do.
It's awesome, man.
Until it's a bump.
You know what? I took a couple bumps.
Yep.
And I've seen it. No, but like in one match recently. Oh yeah, you did see it.
I did see it.
Yeah. But like just recently, and this dude is like easily like 240.
Didn't
I want to say.
Bump you? Didn't you get?
I feel like Carew did. Yeah,
it was Carew and a boo. Yeah, and then you just got.
So this guy runs at me.
Mm-hmm.
He squishes Cody Deaner into me, and then he comes at it again, and Cody moves, so he fully gets me.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing is, like, none of that actually hurt. I was laying on the ground, and I was like, there was gonna be these, Rob was gonna come up to me. I'm kind of, breaking some rule here, maybe explaining what was going on, but Rob was planning on coming to me, and he was going to try to get me, because I was out, he was going to try to get me to do a pin, but I wouldn't move, right?
Yeah.
And so he ended up kicking me.
And that hurt?
That hurt. Yeah, like the squat, the corners are right, like there's give in the corner,
Yeah. It's funny. Every once in a while, you got to get used to the bumping.
I don't mind, man. I have a dream, bro. I want to go through a table, bro. Like I want to do like that shit's exciting to me.
Yep.
I don't think I could fully wrestle because when I was 16 years old, I fractured my back, like skateboarding.
Okay.
Real shit. And so wrestling, doing the actual wrestling seems like it's off the table. I just have my back is.
DDP yoga?
Pardon?
You ever do DDP yoga?
No.
You should look into it. I have it. Yeah. Dude, there's some testimonies on there.
Okay.
Of people with fused backs, like people who couldn't even walk.
Okay.
Like that's why you're seeing all these old wrestlers come back and getting that last run. DDP's changing lives, man.
All right.
Yeah, and Stevie Richards is over there like running stuff. It's pretty funny. But I say, like, even for me, I have the degenerative disc in my back. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a back injury, too. Like, I didn't break my spine. Like, that's quite,
well, like, one of my vertebrae is, like, pushed in.
Yeah.
And originally, that one, it got pushed in and had a crack in it. The crack is healed, but it's still kind of...
it's still kind of pushed in.
Yeah.
I hear you. But I know DDP Yoga, man, does wonders. I would definitely look into it.
I'll look into it, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe get into top 5 wrestlers since we're talking about that shit right now?
Yeah, sure.
You want to go first?
I already told you. Number 1 is Terry Funk. It's been Terry Funk ever since I was a little kid. Some of them, my grandfather watching. I don't even know what territory it was. And it was probably Smoky Mountain. Because we were in Tennessee. But I remember being on a couple times. And just Terry Funk, and then especially because he came back around into that ECW time, and so I got to see him fight Sabu and Barbed Wire Massacre, like
ridiculous,
where the match ends because they're stuck together and they just got to cut them apart.
That whole match is just it's I like obviously I like watching it, but it's also like
it's a serious
painful.
Fight, man.
It hurts me just watching.
Yo, Terry Funk was just like. He reminds me of, like, my grandfather, like, just certain people, they just seem like they're made out of concrete. You know what I mean? And also, I always appreciated his storytelling, too. Like, he really, really, like, sometimes oversold, and he was really good at getting heat from the crowd. Still, I'm talking like he's passed. Like, still, he probably could do it now, But I remember growing up watching, like, especially because number 2 is Mick Foley.
Yeah.
And so with Mick Foley, you got Terry Funk. They kind of go hand in hand. And I remember watching all the IWA, all the deathmatch stuff in Japan. I remember watching like all the FMW stuff. You know what I mean? And just all like the barbed wire and nails and like electrified cages and just crazy crap. Exploding rings. And so I just remember being like, what are these guys doing? You know what I mean? And it kind of drew me in. And same with Mick Foley.
Yeah.
He was just... And I met him once when I was younger. Yeah. Just at a signing. Nothing super deep. But he was just genuinely, like, a good guy.
100%, dude.
And it just drew it to me. But also, he was a real person. And I think he inspired me to think that wrestling may be possible for me. Because I'm 5'7", I'm not this 6 foot big, like everybody, if you turn on back in the day, everybody like Hogan and stuff, like they're all
just jacked
monsters. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I don't want to be, no offense to people who do it, but I didn't want to fall into the deathmatch realm. And so that's why I had walked away from training because, everything else, like back then Vince McMahon said AJ Styles would never be more than a mid-carder. You know what I mean? And so this is back when he was still in the Cruiserweight tag division in WCW. Like, we're talking back in the day. Mm-hmm. Well, that was the same ballpark I was in. I was, I think, $155 at the time. Skinny guy. And so... But either way, as far as the wrestlers, Those two are paramount. Followed by Bret Hart.
Bret Hart, for sure.
Excellence of execution. One of the best heels I ever knew. I loved the Team Canada thing. The heat he would get. Oh my gosh. Like telling us all to shut up while he played the Canadian national anthem. Like, oh man, the heat. And then I would have to say Triple H, the cerebral assassin. I've always been a fan of him. And actually there's a lot of people like Bobby Roode and different folk that remind me of Triple H. And I think like they drew me in. Now I'm fans of these people because like they do certain things and it's similar. You know what I mean? I remember like Bobby Roode Spinebuster. It's like a piece of art, and that's just like Triple H back in the day. Or like when Triple H drops that knee. You know, the storytelling and talk about the long-term storytelling right now with the real takeover. You know, Triple H is the man, but I definitely grew up on him, and then Sabu. And Sabu just speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You know, and also I respect Sabu because, you know, he turned down money. And he might regret it. I don't know. I don't live his life. But he turned down a decent contract because he didn't want to give up his vision for his art.
Yeah. Love it.
You know, and he was like, no, like, this is what I'm going to do. And I respect people who stand by that.
Yeah.
You know, and make it happen. So who are your 5?
All right. I'm going like all time, and I gotta go. Stone Cold is my number 1.
Okay.
I mean, the most memorable moments in my mind of like the Attitude Era was prime for me. I think right now it's getting really great, and it could possibly, you know, in the future surpass. I think with Triple H taking over WWE and AEW, like them actually having real competition in North America now.
Yeah,
I think both like it's gonna be so good. Like
everybody thrive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The only people going to win are wrestling fans.
But like Stone Cold, like just had the moments he had, like a really funny heel turn, and I
have to say Stone Cold is the man. I didn't know him as Stunning Steve Austin.
Okay,
I didn't know him. I do remember him as the Ringmaster.
Yeah.
You know, with Ted
I learned
DiBiase.
all that after, man.
Yeah, but when he turned to Stone Cold, I actually remember watching King of the Ring. When he said that infamous, you know, well, John 3:16, you know, and then he said, well, Awesome 3:16 says, and I remember being like, yo, that's dope. But I remember same thing, and it's linchpin to Bret Hart. It was that blood from a stone 100%. Shirt. When he had him in that, and he's screaming, and that blood's coming down, and there's certain moments, kind of like when Becky Lynch got her face broken by Nia Jax, and she kept fighting. Like, you can't plan that.
Yeah.
It's just such a genuine moment, and it goes down in wrestling history.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, Stone Cold's awesome.
And then I'm big on characters. Like I fell off of wrestling because like everyone just seemed like a pretty boy, and there wasn't a lot of like for lack of a better term, diversity. Like I just want people to be different, and like someone who was just like I was a magnet to him as a child. Ultimate Warrior. I gotta give him number 2. Didn't have a long career. Wasn't necessarily the greatest wrestler technically, but like I mean the energy and like his character and like it was just the colors, and he was super unique. Yeah, that's
super unique.
Yeah. And then I'm going. I gotta put Jericho in there.
Well, he's got a brain for the business too. I don't know if you listen to his podcast.
I listened to some of them.
Yeah, some of them. Me too. I kind of go pick here and there. But there was one he had on there with the Jericho Appreciation Society, like when they were first launching.
Yeah.
But just listening to him talk about, like, the business, you know, not the show, and going into, like, you know, okay, yo, just make your thing, like, believe what you say, and you get it over. And he said, so I'll turn around and say, I'm a wizard. And I say that, and I mean it, and I throw fireballs in people's face. Does it make sense? No. If I just said I'm a wizard and didn't own it, people boo me. They make me a mark in 3 seconds. But no, I say that confidently, and now that's a moniker, you know. And so like, there's a lesson in that, you know, in what we do. And so, yeah, Jericho's the man. Jericho deserves a lot too. Who knows? You might see him back in WWE someday.
Maybe.
I'm really excited for the KO push that's coming down the road.
A lot of weird shit's happening with AEW right now that is like unfortunate because I really like them, but I mean it was only inevitable. Like,
it's only inevitable. It's a place to work,
right?
You know, it's not they're not all sitting around holding hands singing "Kumbaya." It's the circus. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're gonna have you have people out for their own and different things. It's a business at the end of the day, but AEW's doing all right. I don't think they got nothing. I mean, CM Punk thing is a little messy, but again, whatever. That's the circus. You know what I mean? Like, turn on TV, politics is messy. Everything's messy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you right now, any press is good press. And so right now, AEW is getting talked about.
Yeah. And
so we'll see what happens. But they got a stack roster, man. I think he's got something like, I don't even know, like 150, 200 something wrestlers on there. Like, you only got a 3-hour show.
Yeah, they need to really kind of do something with Ring of Honor now that they have that. Stop doing like title defenses on AEW. Like, give them their own shit.
Give it a show.
You know.
We'll see what happens. Ring of Honor, though, that's another one. Being from the East Coast of America, tri-state area, Ring of Honor was a big deal. That and CZW.
Yeah. I'm saying The Rock for number 4. And then I'm going Mankind. And, like, I obviously Mick Foley, but, like, over his 3 characters, like, out of them, I would definitely pick Mankind.
I just bought a Mankind shirt off the WWE shop.
Oh, yeah.
That they have on there. It's the Boiler Room one.
Okay,
I was like, yep.
I met him, too, dude.
That's getting bought.
And, like, you were saying he's a good dude, and I was with my ex at the time, and her daughter was... young, like single digits, like 8 or 9 at the time when we met him. And the night before, she made this like sacco.
Okay.
But she made it with like a flannel vest and like hair like Mick Foley. Okay. And so she brought it to the event, and like he loved it, and they took all these photos, and then he used it in his match.
Really?
Yeah, as like the final, that's like cool. The sacco. Oh man.
You know, but the one thing with him that people don't realize is that, and it sucks that he had to do it. But I think about that. He wasn't afraid to put himself on the line to get that pop, to get that reaction, And Sacco is what, because WWE, if we're going to talk from a business, you gotta move merch. And people were buying Saccos.
Yeah.
People, and so Mick Foley, and now he's writing books and doing all sorts of stuff.
And they're good. They're good like, books. I have one. Yeah. I can't say they're good, but I'm sure the other ones are good.
I'm sure they're
but
phenomenal.
Have a Nice Day is fucking great. Yeah.
But I mean, like, he's a very diverse person. But I remember that one scene where him and The Rock, that infamous match where he's got his hands, he's unprotected chair shot after chair shot. There's like 15 of them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I think it was on the show Behind the Ropes. And it was around the same time of the screw job too.
Okay.
Is in the same documentary. And he's sitting there and he's getting stitched up and his face is just crimson. And he's probably so concussed, he probably doesn't even remember it. And he's staring into the mirror and he's like, well, I hope everybody had a good time. And I was like, that's a level of cool, like he's willing, but also sadness. That it's like, this is what I have to do to be here. You know what I mean? Because I'm not... The Rock, or I'm not, whatever, I gotta go out there and put my life on the line. And now he did it willingly. And he did it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's one of those things that you wish he didn't have to throw himself off a Hell in the Cell.
Yeah.
To be remembered. Because I'll tell you right now, I remember Mick Foley for the person I met at that mall somewhere in, North Jersey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So... yeah, but that's definitely solid picks, man.
All right, what about... and I've been excited. I think we should do this next because, like, most people, like, that I've talked about La Coka Nostra with, they don't fucking know who Coka Nostra is.
LCN.
And I always have to explain, like, the breakdown. Like, no, they're a fucking super... like, House of Pain. And people are like, House of Pain. I'll be like, jump around. And I always have to, like, break it down all of it. Yeah, and, like... so I'm pretty excited that we got to do this. Do you want to go first? I can go first. You
can go first. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Get You By. There's something I really like. Don't get me wrong. All 3 albums are great.
Yeah.
But there's something special about the first one because Everlast is on there. It has like a different sound, like some of the songs, and I like Get You By. And The Stain is my number 2. That's like I like I was kind
The
of
Stain is a good song. We were just listening to that album on the way here.
yeah. That to be honest, dude, that is probably a brand you could trust. Legitimately, probably my favorite hip hop album of all time.
That's the La Coka Nostra I got to see live. It was that lineup.
Yeah,
and I saw them in New York.
I never saw them with Everlast. Danny Boy, Lethal wasn't there as well, but it was.
I caught him right at the right moment. Yeah, because like a couple people left and stuff shortly after, but
yeah. Right. So The Stain's my number 2. Crispy Innovators.
That's a
with
great
Vinny
song.
Paz.
Great
I fucking
song.
love Vinny Paz.
Yes.
Story Goes On. I tried to at least pick one from each album. But The Story Goes On, that's like probably my favorite from.
I'm trying to remember the list I gave you.
Hey, I got it on my phone.
Yeah, pull it up.
We can do that.
But I was just gonna say my first one is easily. I'll censor myself. F. Tony Montana.
Okay.
There's just a level that beat. See, I don't know. I got introduced to the Coka Nostra through Ill Bill.
Yeah.
So I remember. I grew up. I'm at Necro. Outside of Hammerstein Ballroom coming out of an Insane Clown Posse show. And Necro's out there handing out tapes, and one side was him and Ill Bill when they were on Psychological Records, and the other side was Nodis, this guy Isham's group.
Oh, I know Isham, yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't even know why it was a dual tape, because those two had nothing in common, you know what I mean? But I'm like, whatever, that's cool. And I took it, so I get introduced to Necro. And Necro's got songs like I Need Drugs, and he did this one called Poetry in the Streets. And that song, I love that song. And so Ill Bill's on that song. And I just kind of clicked with Ill Bill. His content, what he raps about, how the conspiracy stuff rolls in, and he talks real, it's goon music. And it's gritty, but
it is gritty too. But he's also he's like a wordsmith.
Wordsmith,
for sure.
Without a
so
doubt,
smart with his writing.
And so Ill Bill drew me into La Coka Nostra because Ill Bill has an album called Black Metal.
Yeah.
And on Black Metal there was a couple La Coka Nostra songs. They finally came together. And so when I found out they signed to Suburban Noise. And they put out that album, I was like, this is awesome. And so I got drawn right in, man. Everlast, come on. Yeah. You know what I mean? The whole lineup, it was a super group. And they that whole album was sick. My favorite song by them, do you have the list?
Yeah, I got it there.
Yeah. So let me find there we go. Yeah, I say it was F. Tony Montana. Without a doubt, it just starts off, I don't know, man. There's a level of that where it's just it's so gritty, and I always joke around. It's the tough guy I wish I could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The song starts off so crazy tough, and I've always said that too before I watched it. You watch Scarface, and you're like, man, if he had just hit that thing, he would have been cool. But afterwards, his whole life gets shot up, and it all goes away. And especially with Carlito's Way, I grew up watching that movie, and so this dude's trying to get out. I don't know if you've seen it. But he's trying to get out, and so this guy Benny Blanco messed up, and by the street code he should kill him, and then he doesn't. He has that moment where he gives him a little bit, and he gives him a pass, But in that moment he shows weakness, and his friend sees it, and they plot on him. And so the whole end of the movie, spoiler alert, but it's a real old movie. So if you haven't seen it, I don't know what to tell you. But he's running away to go be with his wife who's pregnant, or not his wife, his girlfriend. And at the last moment, it opens up, and it's John Leguizamo, who's Benny Blanco, and he goes, you remember me? Poof! And then he gets killed right there at the end of the movie. And that's the end of the movie. And so I don't know. There's just a level they really pulled me in. Soldier Story.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, good song.
Yeah, that song's dope. Again, sometimes too with La Coka Nostra, it's how it makes me feel. And I feel like when I'm fighting in the gym or we're training, I'm telling my soldier story. You know what I mean? And so there was just, and again, it's the lyrical content. Mm-hmm. I don't have it written down here, but you break it down to the stuff they're talking about, and they're talking about some real stuff. There's probably the same reason for The Stain. I like the song Cousin of Death.
Oh, yeah, it's a great, yeah.
But to me, Cousin of Death, it's almost like if someone took my journal and opened it and read it. Mm-hmm. It was on that level, especially the life I lived before. Everything. And so
very similar songs though, especially in the way they're structured and the sounds.
Yep. Well, it was definitely Everlast. It's his contribution.
You can hear his contribution on those two songs for sure.
For sure, man, because with the guitar and everything. And then Dark Day Road.
Oh yeah, that was my number 5 too.
Yeah, Dark
That's a
Day
great
Road.
song.
Love that,
Great
and it
song.
just. It's one of those songs that it's just an earwig. It just and it's like in my head.
First track of the album too. Great way to start.
Just start
man.
the album and Slain.
If you got him.
Slain comes out killing it, man. Like he just comes out spitting
Slane's
fire.
one of my favorite dudes.
Dude,
man.
Slain actually reached out to me on IG. Like
No way.
Yeah,
That's
it was. I was like, hey man, I love what you're doing. And I think I was just promoting him.
Yeah.
And added him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, thanks. And I'm like, hey, not trying to be a stan, but I'm just happy to see you're doing good, because he's like opening up drug rehabs and stuff.
Oh man, he's doing such great stuff.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like when I first got into him, it's like, but I also like I feel like when I first got into him, I related to him then, and I've grown with him. This is why I love him so much.
Well, I definitely related to him then, because I had a little coke problem, I had a little thing going on, and he again was this like. You can listen into his music. It's like this guy who's been fighting uphill his whole life. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just the person I know through the albums, But that ruminates with me. When you feel like your whole life you've been fighting uphill, and still you getting smacked in the face like every, and like the struggle at a young age, kind of like what you were talking about. And you get that. There's a realness to him that I really appreciate. And then the next one's that's Coke.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. That's Coke, man. You know what I mean? There's something about that beat. I hear it.
It's like, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, dude.
Wah! And then, like, the whole place just boom.
It's good, yeah. Boom. Seeing it live, too, man. Oh,
yeah, dude.
amazing, dude.
Definitely. So, yeah, that would be my 5th song.
Fuck yeah, man.
Hands down. And actually, there's that one line, and, mother forgive me. I'm sober now, but back in the day, I used to dabble, and so... When Everlast goes, that ain't gunpowder, add on my dash. And then you hear that's Coke.
Yeah.
And it drew me right in.
I love, like, how it's like, it's not like, the song is structured, like, not verse, chorus, or whatever. It's like, they each do, like, 4 bars, and it just goes
it's
back
like a cipher.
Forth. It's, yeah,
It's
totally.
like a cipher. It's like watching those online ciphers. Or like
great.
the Wu-Tang Clan back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was almost going to ask... to do top 5 Slain movies but I don't know if you saw any of his movies. So I did Ben Affleck.
Yeah. I was saying for Slain, the only movies I've seen him in, I think, is The Town. I think that's the only movie I've seen him in. But I would say with Affleck, I told you my first one's controversial, and it was the most recent.
Bro,
Justice League.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The remake, the one that was like 5 hours long. And I only choose that one because that one was super dope. But I know it's a controversial thing. I'm going to say people be in the comment section calling me a crazy person.
Not the people that watch... Yo, the people that watch this know what's up,
But
bro.
I think Ben Affleck is the best Batman.
I think I like Bale, but I would put Affleck... Here's the thing. Affleck can't get the top spot for me because he never had his own shit. He never had his own Batman movie. I think he's better than Pattinson. I like that new movie, but I would have much rather seen
I will say, I went into that new movie giving him... Because I saw him, that Twilight kid. I saw him in...
Tenet?
No, I couldn't get through Tenet.
No, you couldn't,
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but maybe... I was just like, maybe it was a bad day. Yeah, man, it lost me.
It's a lot to take in.
Lost me quick. I tapped out about 15 minutes. But it was called Devil All the Time.
Oh,
with Tom Holland. It was on Netflix, and it's like about this like backwoods West Virginia kind of thing. And my dad's from that area too, so it kind of ruminated with some of my family's culture. And so it's about he plays this preacher, this crooked preacher. But it was just like his job as that character showed me that he was capable of a wider variety and range than I had shoved him in this box, because he was the sparkly vampire that back in the day that I hated. You know what I mean? Now I don't care. Now I'm like, whatever, But, and so when I heard he was going to be Batman, I was like, I don't know. And then I saw him in the suit, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. You know what I mean? What's the worst that's going to happen? I saw Val Kilmer did it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. You know what I mean? And George Clooney did it. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. You know what I mean? It is what it is. They all had their moments.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey slayed it as the Riddler.
I loved him as the
but Tommy Lee Jones, no shade, he played Two-Face like he was the Joker. So I like the new Two-Face. Everybody did their own part.
Yeah.
Trust me, the Christian Bale ones, those ones, man, without a doubt, every single one is a great movie, worth praise. But there's just something about, I think it's the whole package. Like, he looks like Bruce Wayne. He kind of had that arrogance of him, you know. What's your superpower? I'm rich. You know, like, he had that thing going.
Yeah, I liked.
He's jacked.
Yeah,
you know, he was more.
He was
jacked.
really jacked.
Really
like that's
jacked.
not.
Like,
he was really
like he was like doing like wrestling workouts. It was like Nick if Nick was Batman. You know what I mean? Dude was ripped. You know
Nick
what I mean?
I'm sure loved it.
And I think there's an element. I'm biased. His Batmobile.
Okay.
It's an homage to the show, the Bang Pow Boom show, you know?
Yeah.
And so I grew up, that was on, you know, but I always did like the sleekness to that car. Or it was almost like the one from the animated series.
Yeah, okay.
Which, if you were to say Batman for me as a kid, like the comics, yeah, whatever, and stuff, you know, but animated series was my jam. And so I would say it's definitely the Batman, because Ben Affleck, he is the best Batman, and I do not regret what I said there. And so the next one, with the town. We already talked about it. But it has to be the director's cut.
That's like an extra half hour, bro.
Yeah, but it's true. But it's truthful. Because at the very end, he doesn't get away. Ben Affleck was a bad friend in that movie.
Yeah.
But either way, he gets away in the actual one that went to the theaters. But in that director's cut, he's just about to get away. And, you know, I hope I don't ruin it. You know, spoiler alert. Fast forward real quick if you don't like it. But he's just about to get on there, and those guys are like, hey, you remember me? The guys that he kicked in the door and beat him up. And they just kill him. And that's just the end of the story. And again, it's like, oh. And then she finds the orange and the money, and he gets the plaque. And now that plaque makes more sense, because they find his dead body. And so it's a memorial. And so either way, I like that one better, personally. I don't like the happy ending.
Yeah.
But my wife says I'm depressing. She says, I want Disney endings. I don't want it to be like, and then everything continued to suck. The next one's Changing Lanes.
Great movie.
Great movie. Samuel L. Jackson taught me to be nicer to people when on the 401. And The Accountant would be the next one, where he played that autistic like hitman.
Yep.
I think he knocked it out of the park with that, and that's a really good action movie if you haven't seen it. And then it's a funny one to put at 5, but I meant it all the same, Jersey Girl.
Yeah.
I'm a big Kevin Smith guy.
I love Kevin
being from
Smith,
Jersey.
Man. Yeah.
I have a signed VHS tape of Kevin Mewes and him. Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith.
Mean, yeah.
And like this is back in their old comic shop. Like, not the place they have now in Red Bank. Like, they used to have it was like 2 of these rooms together. And it was just, like, comic books, like, everywhere. It looked like a hoarder's house.
Yeah.
It was, like, that kind of level. And they were there signing VHSs. And so I grew up on all their movies, you know, Clerks and stuff. But I think Jersey Girl, he did something special. Right. And I'm a little bit of a softie, you know, on the inside. Don't let the...
I don't think it's a horrible movie, man. I like all of Kevin Smith's movies. Obviously, like... You know, it's not black and white, it's gray, like, so, you know, there's ones I like more, but I own all of them.
The Jersey Girl, I liked it. It had a real good chemistry, and I'm a little, the funny part when they make fun of Will Smith in the beginning. Like, that whole beginning part is hilarious, and so, yeah, I love that movie.
All right. I'm going for my number 1, Zack Snyder's Justice League as well.
Yep.
Big fan. I'm a big DC guy. I love all the shit, but I definitely prefer DC.
I'm happy DC's finally making movies again.
Yeah.
That are like good, you know, and not terrible. Like
I think. See, and we could talk about this, but I think Batman vs Superman is gonna be my second one.
Bro, Batman vs Superman.
And the extended, bro, I'm very big. The director's cut version of that too.
A lot of people give me crap. I always said that's a good movie.
I think it's fucking great.
And everybody craps on it. And I'm like, I think you expect too much. You know what I mean? I was like, I think they did a spot-on job.
Everyone, when I mention that I love the movie, everyone always just says Martha. And I'm like, that's what you took away from a 2.5-hour movie? That's what makes you not
also,
like
you're
it?
going to talk trash about this fact that a human being empathized with another human, like an alien. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they found common ground.
Yeah.
Here's an idea. Like, you know,
maybe he's not that different.
Exactly.
You know? It's very, I'll go with The Town, and I would definitely say director's cut is better.
Yes.
I'm going Jay and Silent Bob. And it was hard for me because I know he doesn't have a lot in that, but when I Wikipedia'd him, it was on the list.
But what he did
I love that movie.
But what he did have was very Deadpool before Deadpool. Like, they go to him and they break the fourth wall. Like, he's like,
yeah, man.
He's like, one
Strike
of your friends
Back was
text you and say they need you in their movie. And he's like,
that's a comfort movie for me, dude. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And there's so many just
Dogma.
people in it. Dogma's great.
Oh
too.
man, him it almost made the list with me. Cause him and oh my gosh, they just riff off each other left and right in that movie.
And then my number 5 is Extract, which is by Mike Judge.
I have seen that movie. Is that the one where Extract?
And he's like a bartender, and Jason Bateman.
Jason
like
Bateman, yeah.
And he keeps like giving him drugs and shit.
And Mila Kunis is in it, and they work at an extract company.
Yes, that is.
That is a good movie.
He's hilarious in that movie, man.
I forgot he was in that movie.
He's just like some stoner kind of druggy, chilled out dude, but he's so funny. All right, let's do superheroes.
Superheroes.
Yeah. I'll go through mine quick because I do it all the time. I can show you where that is. Maybe Batman.
All right.
Ninja Turtles. I put them in one spot. And then I'm going Red Hood, Arsenal, and Spider-Man. And if I was going to do a real person, I've recently added this because I've been feeling like a piece of shit that people put actual people in their life.
Oh, okay.
So I honorable mention to my Nana. If I was putting like a real person in a superhero spot, like my Nana was essentially like my mom.
Okay.
And
All right.
I wish she was around now to see like what I've done and
Yeah,
but
I hear you, bro. I hear you.
What about you, man?
All right. I definitely grew up kind of this weird outsider kid, and so Spawn.
Love it.
Was a big deal. Me and my friend Chris. I mean, like, I guarantee if I got in touch with him, he's got like Spawn 1 first edition. Kid, like we were in it, and I remember they had an HBO like animated show. But even the movie with John Leguizamo and all that, it was all solid in my mind.
Yeah.
And so Spawn for sure. Hellboy. I love the.
Did you like the new one?
I did.
Yeah.
I actually did. I can see. I don't get hung up in a lot of this stuff because I get like it's kind of like the Marvel fans or any of that. Like you have this coveted thing that you love and this, but it's just like especially when you have a multiverse, you have multiple different stories and takes. And it's art, guys.
Yeah.
Like you just accept. That's what the director wanted. That's the message.
That's what they've done with these characters since the beginning.
Let's tell a different story.
Since they're incarnate. There's lots of different that don't follow the main continuity and things. Like, they do that in the comics. They do that in fucking TV shows. It's like, just let people... Yeah, if it's good, it's good.
Also, I just hate when people crap on that because, like, there's so many bigger problems in the world.
Right.
Like, such a first world problem. Like, I'm so upset that Like, guy, there's people who don't have running water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's keep it real. It's just a movie. But Hellboy, I love the redemptive aspect. Because he was, like, supposed to be the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And then seeing that choices he made, there's something beautiful to that. Punisher.
Love it.
Again, it just keeps getting dark with me. But there was a level... Yeah. The Punisher, there's a strength. There's but then I think it was also the justice aspect. And just different things. I always loved the story arcs with him. Plus, with him, kind of ties in the next one was Daredevil.
Okay.
And this is before the show on Netflix, but the show on Netflix, and the fact
I really like the Punisher show, too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And they even tied them together in that.
I know. It's so good.
And so, those two, I got introduced to Daredevil through a Punisher comic.
Okay.
And then Batman.
Yeah.
But Batman, I would say, again, would be from the animated series or just my whole life. Like, I remember being that kid going to see the first Tim Burton Batman and getting my McDonald's Batman cup, and just being all in, But those Tim Burton movies were dark. Batman was killing people.
All right. This one is definitely one that I'm kind of excited about, but I've never really talked about on here because, people are weird about shit, but I feel great about it. I'll start. Conspiracies, top 5 conspiracies. Straight up, right out the gate, 9/11. It's gotta be. It was my like eye-opening event.
I would agree.
You know what I mean?
Me too. Yep.
And that was the first one I feel like I learned about.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that don't make sense. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to get, but like
I can get pretty
a building burning down that wasn't hit, planes crashing in areas that were supposed to have people, but coroners didn't find any bodies. And like, there's lots of stuff. But 9/11,
9/11 is a big
shady
one.
as fuck.
Definitely, there's definitely more there.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm going like. You have ancient... Oh, wait, no, I'm not going to say your thing. Pyramids, the pyramids. I fully believe in aliens. And it's funny because I was talking about to my girlfriend about this. And we got into, like... She doesn't agree with me, but... I just believe that aliens built the pyramids. I believe aliens had a lot to do with our civilization.
You'll enjoy my take on it.
And I'm sure we agree on a lot of the stuff. You watched Ancient Aliens ever? That show?
You know what? I watched every single episode pretty much. It got a little repetitive after a while.
Towards the end, yeah.
You know, and
the first 2 seasons though, dude.
Yeah, but my thing is I'm pretty critical. I'm a pretty critical thinker.
Okay.
And so like certain things, if you give me a logical explanation, be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can move on. But there's certain things that just don't add up. And so my thing is that can we, from a scientific perspective, say, okay, let's look into that, instead of just shutting it down. You know. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think there's more to the pyramids too.
HARP.
HARP, the weather stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real. I mean, it's real obvious. We know what it does, and it's owned by the military.
Yeah, yeah.
Something's going on, bro. You know?
Yeah, they started seeding clouds in Africa for water. They always started off with good things. But I don't know, man. Like, you hear a lot of that conversation. What is it? What does it do? I remember watching Jesse Ventura had a show.
Oh, yes, I have seen that show. Yeah, dude.
And so I remember watching that.
Conspiracy Theory, that's what it was called, right?
Yeah, back in the day. And I remember watching the one on that, and then that kind of tied into chemtrails.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they were talking about, well, what are they spraying? Because you always get chemtrails bleeds into either that, with HARP, or it bleeds in with Nibiru or Nemesis. Both of those kind of go hand in hand. And so, I know all about HARP.
All right. And then I'm going fluoride, man. Fluoride in drinking water. I don't think we should be ingesting it. I don't think necessarily, like I know, like when you go to the dentist... Yeah, you're not supposed to swallow that shit. Yeah, it's from what I've learned, it's like it's basically waste. You know,
my dad, like I remember I used to get on the fluoride, and my dad, who's much smarter than me, had a reasonable reason for it. Talking about like the benefits and different things and how it's only this amount, and and like I couldn't reiterate it here to bring light to it, but. Okay. It's also important to point out that there's many pamphlets that the Nazis made about the fluoride they put in the water at the concentration camps in high doses and made people docile and easy to control. So I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but I'm just saying like, hey, that's a thing.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about my number one where that'll come up. World War II comes up. And so, this might take like the whole thing over and just take a hard right into crazy land. Man.
I'll end then with moon landing.
I agree with Joe Rogan.
I can never 100% write it off. What is Joe Rogan's theory on fucking? I should probably know that.
I agree with Joe Rogan on this one. I think it's both. I think it was the Cold War, and they weren't sure if they were going to get up there, but they wanted at the very least to keep the Russians busy wasting money building these rockets. And so I believe we've been to the moon. We've left things up there now that we can actually shoot lasers that shoot lasers back. Now, can it be manipulated? Yeah, I'm sure. How far do you want the conspiracy to go? But I'm pretty safe to say we've been there. But I do think that some of the footage, especially in the early stuff, could have been made in a studio. Yeah. And because what if it failed? What if we want to like... Because remember, they're at war with this other country, and they're trying to like waste resources, and so I think that's what we run into with that early moon landing. I think we made it there, but I think at the same time they hedged their bets. And so some of the footage wasn't. It was filmed, and that's why you'll see stuff where like you get a random air bubble float by. Oh, what are they in water? But then at the same time, you know how hard it would be to fake a moon landing in 1960s? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, I don't know.
But like,
you know,
like
but,
it would be also, I feel like, equally hard to get there with the technology they have.
Bro, you know? If they got there, those two astronauts, they deserve our respect. You know what I mean? And like I kind of feel that way too when like me sitting here, you know, with no degree in it. I don't understand aerospace technology. I don't understand none of that, you know? And to sit there and say it's impossible, you know, because I think about like if you came up to a person and
I don't think it's impossible.
Now I think things are easier. Mm-hmm. But you know, but yeah, it definitely can be called to question. You know what I mean? Because they had it on film for the whole world to see. And you know they do shady stuff. That's what the government does. But yeah. I agree with Joe Rogan. That was the first time I was always like a moon landing happened guy.
Yeah.
And then when Joe Rogan said that, I'd be like, you know, that actually makes sense. You know, because then if it failed, they could put out a fake narrative, and so Russia kept wasting money.
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't know. Maybe it's nothing.
All right. So what you got?
All right. I'll start from 5 and work my way up.
All right.
So my number 5 was 9/11. Again, 9/11 being from Jersey, you know, that was my backyard. Mm-hmm. And so 9/11 is actually pretty triggering to me still to this day.
Okay.
Even when I served years later in the Salvation Army, I had to walk through Ground Zero every day to go set up my kettle stand. I remember the sound of people jumping to their death. Like, I remember watching on Fox News. I'll never forgive it for them. And you're sitting there watching the buildings burn, and you're hearing... And you're like, what's that sound? And then you realize it's people. Because they're choosing to jump over burn to death. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's a heavy day.
Yeah, man.
And I think as a nation we were traumatized. It was a game changer for me. Mm-hmm. And then I got wrapped into... he's very famous now for all the wrong reasons. But I got roped into Alex Jones through 9/11. Mm-hmm. He didn't do it, but it was a person who works for him. Did a documentary called Loose Change 2nd Edition.
Seeing it.
And I remember watching that documentary, and it had valid questions. You know, and they were like using stuff like science and the periodic table and different things. And then you start reading about, like in the Vietnam War, those at the Bay of Tonga or whatever incident, and you know we were attacked and yada yada yada, and then through the Freedom of Information Act it comes out, no, that was false flag. We attacked our own ship and lied about it. Mm-hmm. You know, and then you really start looking at the big picture stuff, like, oh, you know, what did they really want out of it? You know, and like I'm not gonna sit here and say for sure yay or nay it happened, but I feel like a lot of people were murdered that day. Mm-hmm. I find it odd that there were government-run simulated flights of flying planes into the Twin Towers. I also find it weird that the pilot of the plane, for one of them that flew in, the actual pilot for the airport, was one of the military people who ran the simulation. So that's even a deeper aspect to it. Mm-hmm. And also when the buildings fell and the other building fell, they said from debris. There's tunnels that connect all of the World Trade Centers, and they found there's like gold reserve in some of the buildings, and they found all the gold reserve in dump trucks moved down into the tunnels. And so it's like, it's almost like you knew, like I remember like they pulled bomb sniffing dogs 2 weeks prior. They're like, people were talking about these weird people coming in, and they were like, it's just, there was a lot of weirdness. Look, I don't know. I wasn't there. And I always say in those situations, God knows. You know, but I do know that my government later lied their faces off and committed war crimes to get us into an endless war with Iraq and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I always tell people, you know, terrorism is it's a word. It's like, well, who's saying it? You know, the next man's freedom fighter is the next man's terrorist. Right. You know, and so I feel bad for the Middle East in many ways, and I think 9/11 is a lot like Pearl Harbor. You know, we didn't want to join World War II. We thought it was a Europe problem. They allowed Pearl Harbor to happen, and then all of a sudden there's a 98% we want to go fight. People were killing themselves during World War II because they were getting rejected by the Army if they weren't fit to serve. People were committing suicide. You know what I mean? Same thing happened after 9/11. All of a sudden, everybody's driving around with American flags hanging out everywhere, and it was just like everybody was joining the military. And then even deeper, I have friends who went to Afghanistan and Iraq. Some, unfortunately, really ruined them. But other ones sent me back photos of them guarding poppy fields. What are you doing? I thought you were there fighting terrorists.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, right when we're in this war with Afghanistan, their biggest exports, poppies, and we're guarding it, and then all of a sudden, what's all over the streets nowadays? Heroin and blues and all the opiates, and then I'm supposed to just be like, oh, that must be a coincidence, you know what I mean? And so I can go down that rabbit hole all day long. But 9/11, I would say, is where the wool got pulled off my eyes.
Yeah, me too, man.
Ancient astronauts. Now, I'm going to go a little weird on you on this one. I'm on the fence with aliens.
Okay.
But as a man of faith, and it's very taboo in the faith community, I see moments where they talk of angels and demons, and moments where they even allude to it in Ancient Aliens, where they'll talk about biblical stories.
Yeah.
Well, before the flood, there were these people called the Watchers, angels whose job it was to observe us. And so we always would write about their things they're flying around in, and so you'd see things in different visions, and it'd be a chariot of fire here, over in
carpet,
and then different things. You see these things, and so one could beg to differ that they are manifesting in a way so that if they're seen, it's something in awe. You know what I mean? And so they used to talk about flaming chariots. Well, now we see them in these elaborate machines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so sometimes I'm big on spiritual warfare. I've actually seen crazy things I can't explain in my walk with God. And so I know it's taboo, but I really feel like you're seeing, with the pyramids and with these megalithic structures, and there's so many, you know what I mean? There's an underground city in Turkey that is just obscenely weird. It's just a whole city underground in caves, and it's got airflow system that can be blocked off so you can't smoke them out. It is so sophisticated. In Japan, there's these areas cut out with laser precision, how? And I think there's angelic techniques. You know what I mean? The Watchers came down. I would say Emotep and different people like that who came down. You start reading of these angels who leave their thing and start deceiving man, and it eventually gets so bad that God sends a flood. Now, I'm not a literalist when it comes to that thing. I believe with translation and with people and bias and everything in between, things go sideways. But we do see evidence in the Grand Canyon of a great flood. And it's done scientifically by the dunes. All the dunes up against the rocks, if it was wind, it's at a certain degree. But under the ocean, they're all a certain degree because of the weight. And they're all that degree, meaning it was underwater at some point. Completely. And so, again, I don't know. I could be way off base. But I feel we see a pre-flood world that we've lost. Because we were great. This idea of us being these unsophisticated, these stupid cavemen, I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah. I don't
and I also lean in with that where there was a class, I believe, of builders. Like the Masons, where they draw their inspiration from. And that's why you see pyramids here and pyramids there and these things here and these things there. There might have been people traveling the world more than we realize. And then the next one was Nibiru.
Yep.
Which, if you know anything about Eddie Bravo, you know what I mean? He talks about it. Now, with Nibiru, you got to take the Anunnaki kind of hand in hand. I don't know but again, when we talk about what we were just talking about, to me, the Anunnaki can be explained pretty quickly. But I don't know if Nibiru would be on a collision course with us or anything like that. But we do see evidence that there's a big planet out in the Kuiper Belt. It pulls on the orbital, the actual planet is skewered, being pulled all the way up to Neptune. Our whole galaxy is on a tilt. And they only see that in either with big outlying planets with a big enough, we're talking 10 times the size of Jupiter, planet with that kind of gravitational force, or a binary star system. which would mean there's a second star that rotates our star. So I don't know if that would be bad news for us. So like I always love that one. It kind of goes hand in hand. I do find it weird that the Anunnaki knew so much about astronomy and the planets and like down to their names. And there was even a planet now where the asteroid belt is, funny enough, called Vulcan, which got destroyed when Nibiru came through. They collided. And now we have this asteroid field there of just broken up rock. And so, I don't know. I always found that stuff to be fun. And so, to me, it's more just a fun thing for me. The reptilians.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I just find it fun. But again, I feel that spiritual warfare is a thing. In my faith, there is an enemy. And that enemy does not have power. But all he has to do is give us, it's like the Joker said. Fun thing about madness, you just need a little push. And so with the reptilians, I think South Park did it the best. When the Dick Cheney's talking, and then there was like the Sith Lord demon guy like talking in his ear, you know what I mean? And so I always joke around that the lizard people are real and that they're influencing people. I did get introduced to David Icke years ago.
Yeah. He's someone kind of like...
He's crazy.
He's a little out there.
He's crazy. No offense, don't sue me, don't come after me, but that dude's a couple fries short of a Happy Meal.
He knows his audience. At this point, like, he's just saying things that people...
that's like this big every year.
Yeah. But the same thing, and I know. Like,
he actually came out and said he was Jesus in this aqua tracksuit.
Oh, no, he didn't. Oh,
yeah, like, there's the clips on somewhere. It was on British television. And he comes out in this awful aqua tracksuit, and he tells everybody he's the second coming of Christ, and that the world was going to end at such and such, and it didn't happen. And then he went to a fish and chip place or a convenience store or something, and then he had an epiphany and heard a voice, and then that's when the lizard people thing happened. And so trust me, I got forced. My buddy made me. I used to buy Coke off a guy years ago, and so he introduced me to a lot of house music. And he taught me the difference between house, hardcore, and all the different names.
Yeah.
And then he also introduced me to a lot of different conspiracies. And he made me watch this, 4-hour speech by David Icke, about the lizard people. And he goes into, in Islam, you have the jinn, and he's, talking about how these things have been in biblical writings, and these are the lizard people, and they're influencing, and the hybrids, and oh man, it goes downhill fast. And so some of these are on here because I just find them fun. Not because I believe in them.
It's not even all the ones that I think people should look into them. I'm not necessarily saying the moon landing's fake. I'm saying I
got questions.
Look into it. You know? Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah, and then my last one is the NWO.
Okay.
Not of course they're for life, but also the New World Order. Now, how deep does it go? I don't know. I work in the corporate world. We're not all there's that scene in Spaceballs where the guy goes, he says something about, "Am I surrounded by morons?" And everyone's like, "Yo!" And everybody, and so he's quite literally surrounded by morons.
Yeah.
And it's that joke has become real life the longer I live, and so. I don't know how much salt I put into this big underlying government agency running the world. But at the same time, there's the Bilderberg Group and these meetings they have. And if you just look into Bohemian Grove for 5 seconds,
there's so much central banks. There's a lot of,
But Bohemian Grove alone.
Yeah, it's a little,
I just go, weird, man. What? You all meet up in druid costumes and have an orgy. And then do a mock sacrifice in front of an owl carved out of a redwood tree. Yeah. You're elected officials. Hold on. I have questions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, maybe there's an answer that I don't see. But
seems pretty hard to explain that, man?
And so, that's one thing. But I think, too, it's all over everything. I can't remember the name of the website right now. But a friend introduced it to me, and it talked about all the ad. And if you watch, they're covering the one eye, they do these same hand gestures, and they all root back to these groups, and the one eye is always referring to the eye in the sky that sees all, the Watchers, and so it's kind of crazy, where you'll sit there and go, is it? You gotta use your head for more than a hat rack.
For sure, man. Well, I guess we'll get out of here. You can let these people know where to get at you if you want.
Yeah, I'm on all the socials. Brick Mafka. I'm training to be a wrestler. He called me a pro wrestler. I appreciate that, but not quite selling out shows yet, but just happy to be here. But yeah, hit me up on all the socials and Facebook, Joe Cantrell, and I have a YouTube channel, 5 Minute Pause. It's just, it has a faith base, but it's just little 5-minute videos of encouragement.
Cool, man.
Because I find during the week, you hit Wednesday sometimes, and you're like, man. And it's normally just like observations of my life. Like, oh, I saw this thing, or I'm talking about this thing. It has a scripture base, but I just try to make it consumable for the average person.
I love it, man.
You know what I mean?
I love your attitude, and I love talking with you, man. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Like always, this podcast is brought to you by Neon Light District. Hit them up. Use code PillowTalk to save 10%. And by The Great North Apparel. Hit them up. Use code PillowTalk to save 30%. Go get your tickets to the monthly show. Go get your tickets to Lafeteria. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. Peace the fuck out.